Looking to make the rest of your life the best part of your life? Every week, the Words for Life podcast has principles and testimonies that will help us become a little better than we were yesterday. This will positively impact your life. Welcome to another Words for Life discussion. And in case you didn't know, I'm Tarence Farrell, aka T Farrell, and this is the season finale of the Words for Life podcast. We've completed one full year of great moments, and I honestly believe this is going to be one of the most interesting episodes yet. Before I introduce today's episode, though, I wanted to tell you about some changes that's going to happen with Words for Life. Within the last few months, I've been speaking with different ministers, different people in ministry, and off camera, they've been sharing a lot of personal information, a lot of stuff, quite frankly, that's kind of hurt my heart. Different trials, public sins, depression, and more. And in my younger years, I would have never associated this with a person in ministry, somebody that's, doing things in Jesus' name. You figure they don't go through these things. But now that I'm a little older, I realize ministry is not easy. We're just regular human beings trying to follow what God called us to do. And sometimes we trip up, just like we trip up if we weren't in ministry. So that led me, I feel like God has led me to now alter this platform a little bit and have me create content for those called by God, wherever they're called to. So whether it be ministering musically, spoken word, or a ministry organization, prison ministry, whatever it is, but me creating content and using this platform to kind of give them tools, or give them some place to just go, yeah, I go through that too. Oh man, that's a good point. That's a nice lesson. Maybe I'll implement that. So that's what I'm feeling led to do. Now, I'm no expert in this area. And so just to let you know, I plan to walk this out with God publicly from week to week on this camera. So you'll see interviews and whatever else God wants to do, that's what I'll be doing. So with all of that said, the question came in my head, how do I end the season one of Words for Life? How do I usher in the new season of Words for Leaders? Yeah, that's the title God gave me. What if another ministry leader who had a multifaceted testimony of her own interviewed me? I know it sounds pretty hot, right? But I can't take the credit. God gave me that idea. So, I without further ado, let me just say that. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, help me welcome the creative arts director at Pine Forge Academy, Martine Erica-Bermingham. Martine, I was gonna say, Martine, how you doing? Like I'm the interviewer again, right? But let me say this before I even get started, because I know Pine Forge Academy, and then I'm gonna let you just roll. I want to say my condolences, because I heard about Pastor Henry, and it was a shock to everybody. So just want to lay that out there.
Thank you so much. The president of Allegheny East Conference and First Lady, yeah, it was a tragic loss. So, Allegheny East Conference is mourning, as you know, the entire community. So thank you for that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So the stage is yours.
Oh my God. You said Pine Forge and I'm like, yo, God is so good.
Yes. The new creative arts director.
Listen, I think, I'm speaking to the best person because you've gone through so many stages. Like I know you to be a dope drummer.
Okay.
On to a producer, engineer, you're mixing, you're songwriting, you build up an amazing studio and a business. What made you do a podcast for someone who claims that they're not a public speaker? I mean, you do know that you're publicly speaking, right?
I still say that I'm not a public speaker. I'm just interviewing people and I'm letting them speak. I'm just asking great questions.
Okay.
But what led me to this, funny enough, it was I saw something online that says, hey, if you really want to make money, what you do is you write yourself a book and you do a podcast. And so, you get a podcast to get the audience. And so it was truly, I want to say it was money driven or success driven. And somewhere, probably about the 5th episode, God just started using the testimonies of those I was interviewing to change my whole perspective of why I put this thing together.
So because I do realize that the underlying theme is success, but like a lot of testimonies and stories and traumas and tribulations came out. So you had this thing with success. Did it start when you were like a kid or?
Yeah, you know what? It did start when I was a kid. I remember, and I'm going to date myself, but I don't really care. I remember I was watching Knight Rider. And my dad was in the room. We all had to get into his room and watch his TV because he's the only one that had the color TV. And so I'm watching Knight Rider as a little kid. And I remember asking my dad, I said, Dad, how much would it cost to get a car like that? And he was like, there are no cars like that. I said, but if I wanted to get somebody to make a car like that, how much would it cost? And he was like, I don't know, like $10 million. And I'm like, okay, bet. And in my head, I'm just like, I'm going to get 10 million. I'm going to make $10 million so I can get me a car that talks to me, that when I'm walking, I can say, hey, kid, come pick me up. And it would drive through the streets and come get me. And so from there, I just felt like eventually I'm going to make millions.
Okay, I get that. Makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Now, with all of because your season 1 has ended or is ending. Is this the finale?
This is the finale, the season finale.
Wow. Yeah. Listen, congrats, bro.
Thank you.
Now, in all 53 episodes, what have you learned about success from your guests, the people that you interviewed?
That's a great question. What I've learned about success is that there's 2 different types of success. And I don't want to sound overly spiritual, but really there's the world's success and then there's kingdom success. And so the world's success, and it was all brought to me, I should say highlighted with this book I read called Grace Over Grime by Shay Bynes. I had her as a guest on the podcast as well. And when we grind it out, when I do it in my strength, when I say, okay, I'm going to make the $1 million and I see what's hot and popping. Okay, I'm going to do what's hot and popping and make the money. This is me doing it in my own grind. And God might choose to breathe on it and I make money or whatever. I'm not saying I'm not with God because I wasn't going to do anything to offend God.
Right.
But now
you say to save, you're like, Lord, I'm gonna hook you up with it too. But at the same time,
right. This is me. Like, you bless me with this. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna use it, and I'm gonna honor your name by making my name big. Because if my name is big, your name is big too. Absolutely. His name is already big. It doesn't matter. And that's what I had to get to. And so now, if we go with kingdom success, as long as we're following God, we're already successful. What's so key about that is once we start looking at it like that God is my father and I'm already successful because I'm his, when what we plan doesn't work, we don't now feel unsuccessful. I don't now go, oh man, this didn't work. Yo, I suck. Like, I'm not that good. This dude is better than me. And you start to do that. And this thing of success is like, I'm following all the rules. It now turned and put me in a bad place because I'm chasing, quote unquote, the world's success.
Yeah, because you're comparing yourself to somebody else and you miss what God has for you.
Yeah.
I mean, we all go through that. So I like that. That kingdom success is you glorify God and he makes it happen.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So I love that. So, okay. I mean, you're seasoned now. I mean, after season 1, I mean, you've learned so much.
Yes.
But we're going to get really into who you are, right? Now, when you're starting a book, where do you start? You start from the beginning. So, T. Farrell, let's get into your genesis. I always assume, because I grew up in a musician household, shout out to my big bro, Levite.
Yes.
That were your parents musicians?
My dad was a drummer. My mother was a singer, and she played piano.
Okay, so it was a natural thing. You watch your parents. You're like, you know what? Was this one of the ways you saw yourself becoming this big time millionaire by playing drums, or you just enjoyed playing?
I actually started playing before I can remember. So I started at 3 years old, and how I know is they had pictures of, my 3-year-old. When I was 3, that Christmas, they bought me a drum set and they had me on the drum set. And I hear the stories of every time my dad went down to play, I would go down and want to watch him and say I wanted to play. And he was hesitant to teach me. And he told me the story of he had to see if I had rhythm. Because if I didn't have rhythm, it didn't make sense. And
it would be pointless.
Yeah, pretty much. And so he would have me tap, and I would tap to the beat. And I was pretty good at tapping to the beat. And then he would do syncopations and off timings to try and throw me off of where the beat was. And he said I kept the beat. And then he was like, okay, he's got something.
Okay, so you have siblings. Your siblings are also as musical as you are, or?
They're not as musical as I am. My brother picked up the bass, started doing that, and then put it down. My sister, she did the clarinet and the sax, and she still plays sax.
Okay.
But they never took it to a professional level like I took drums. And I gotta put a pin here and say, my brother, I don't know about my sister. I can't really remember if she wanted to put.
Now, what's the birth order? Are you middle child? Are you the baby? Are you?
No, I'm the oldest. I am the oldest.
Firstborn.
Yes.
Okay.
Firstborn, and I think there's 4 years between me and my brother, 5 years between me and my sister. And so my brother, he picked up the bass, and did a little something tinkering, and then he put it down. No big deal. My sister, she picked up the sax, I think a little later. I don't know if she ever put it down. She just kind of gradually got better. My dad got me all in on the drums. I'm firstborn, so he's going to teach me. And somewhere along the line, I didn't want to do it anymore. I'm hitting like
drums anymore?
I did not want to play drum. I'm hitting 6 and 7. All my friends are outside playing, and I got to do 2 hours of practice. And I'm like, no, you know what? I don't want to do any of this anymore. And he was just like, you don't have a choice. You're going to do it. So it was one, you always hear the parents that had the piano lessons and you had to go to piano. It became, I had to do my drum lessons, and it was my dad teaching me before I went out and played. And so it, at a certain age, it's like, I'm done with it. I don't want to do it anymore. But
wow.
I stuck with it. And
boy, did you.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, that's part of the beautiful, pretty, fluffy part of our childhood.
Yes.
Right? But everyone, if we can be honest,
mm-hmm.
there is some, and it's not that parents mean to,
mm-hmm.
It's not just parents. Sometimes we get it from our teachers or adults in our churches or our communities. There is something that causes a traumatic experience from your childhood.
Yeah.
That you can remember,
that
you are willing to share. And you and I have always had this, brother-sister relationship where we share a lot.
Yeah.
And you're transparent today because you're moving into season 2.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. What's the most traumatic thing that you can share that happened in your childhood?
All right. So this is the most traumatic thing I can remember, and it's burnt into my brain. So I'm going to paint the picture. I heard my mother screaming my name. Tarence, come, Tarence. And I'm probably about 6 years old, maybe 7 years old, right? And she's in the bathroom. And I open the bathroom door, and my dad is over my mother with a butcher knife.
Mercy.
Saying, I'll kill you. And my mother said, call 911. And so I immediately turned to run out the bathroom. And my dad said, you won't make it to the phone. And I froze. And she said, call 911. He said, you won't make it to the phone. I'll catch you. And I just froze and I stood there. And after that, he went back to threatening my mother. And I'm just frozen because if I try to get to the phone, I might be dead. And she's still 911, call, go, you can call, go. And I wouldn't move. And there was a point where I felt regret. Like I should have went. I should have just tested the fact that maybe he wouldn't have, but at 7 years old, you
were a baby.
Yeah, but I was 7. Like I knew how to dial 911. I knew, how to make myself a cheese sandwich. Like I knew a couple of things. But yeah, that, and I remember that. I remember. And I want to say, like, if anybody, and I just noticed from speaking to other people or doing interviews, if anybody is suffering through abuse, we've got a number going across the stream. Call. Abuse is nothing to play with. It could get. I thank God it didn't turn deadly at that moment. My dad didn't kill my mother right there, but it was. I never forgot that.
So that's your first recollection of the abuse?
Yeah, that's my first recollection.
This abuse carried on and went on for how many years?
Oh my goodness. This went on until my father, I shouldn't say until he passed away, maybe until, 4 years before he passed. So through college, the whole thing,
wow.
and now that I'm older, I can understand more the origins of it. He was a Vietnam veteran.
Whoa.
He was in Vietnam. I remember him telling me, because I would ask him, how was it? And he was like, when you see your friend, like y'all were just there, they go out and then they don't come back, or they come back with no arms, or they come, and so he was traumatized.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, he would. And as I
of course he didn't know to seek counseling. It was not encouraged back then.
No, not at all. I mean, you man up and you deal with it. And the way he dealt with it was with alcohol. And so there was so many days where, the thing in the house was, you come in the house and you see, all right, is it a good day or is it a bad day? And let me say this, there were a lot of good days, but there were a lot of bad days. And when the days were bad, they were bad. And so abuse didn't happen all the time, but when it did, it just did. And I think my mother always got she always got the brunt of it. And we would hear it or whatever. But shout out to my mom. She is an amazing lady. So she would run around the house and knew she could outrun him if he'd been drinking. And there was one time where he was coming after her hard, like he was coming to get her. And she hit the stairs and ran down the stairs. And he hit the stairs and tried to do the same thing. Fell, and he was just tumbling and was about to fall on her. And she hit the bottom and turned, and he just bam, pop, and sliced his eye, his head, and he just got messed up. And I'm just like, and in the midst of that, I'm just like, yo, mom is dope. Like, yo, she's quick. Like, we went through a lot. There were a lot of key moments that I think built me into who I am, or part of who I am, there was one moment where high school, because now I've been playing the drums, and even in daycare, they had like little blocks, the plastic blocks. Yeah. And I would grab a couple and be like, tuk, 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 and they were amazed that this 6-year-old can do this. And everybody's just like, wow. And it's just like, yep, I could do it. And so that's where the fame started. So now fast forward to junior high and high school, I was just the guy that could play drums. And I remember, was it my senior year in college? I don't even know. It might've been my senior year in junior high school. No, it was, senior year, I'm not college, senior year in high school. And it was the big senior concert. And I think I was a junior. I wasn't even graduating, but I was good enough to play with the seniors. And I hit the drums and all the girls are screaming my name and whatever. And before this, back up a couple of days, my mother said, don't invite your father. And I'm like, why? And she said, because you don't know how he's going to show up. And I'm just like, but I wanted my dad to be there. It's like, I was a senior. So this was it. This was like the senior concert. This is the moment. I've got this big drum solo and everything.
And no matter what, you look up to him as a hero, right? As a lot of, young boys do with their fathers. And so
I wouldn't say hero, but he was still my dad. He was still your
dad.
He was still my dad. And like I said, we had a significant amount of good days. Like he taught me a lot of things, how to change oil in the car and all of that stuff. And so he was sober for like the week leading up to it. So I'm like, yo, we got a good stretch. We're going to be good. Cause sometimes he'd be sober for a month, it wasn't like he was always drunk. So
he was definitely struggling.
Definitely struggled. Definitely. And so I invited him. And lo and behold, like the day before he was sober, lo and behold, he showed up to the school concert drunk.
Oh, man.
He chased my mother up and down the school auditorium.
Oh, my God.
I was embarrassed. Like I was mortified. To top it off, and this is the part that changed my life. He then, after chasing my mother ran, she, ran wherever. And he came to the stage, climbed on the stage, climbed on the stage of the auditorium. All my friends are there. I'm on stage on the drums. I'm like, what are you doing? He got on his back, crawled, did a back wiggle to get a picture of me close up from underneath of me playing the drums. But since he was drunk, he did not care what he was doing or what was going on.
He was just like, I just want to, wow.
So after that moment in time, I said, you can't embarrass me. There is nothing on earth.
You've always said that to me. And I'm like, how? I mean, you're human, but now it makes sense. Not much.
You can't embarrass me. That was my friend. You can. I don't care what you do. You can go into the store and yell and you shouldn't have hit my mother. Like, sorry. You can't embarrass me. After that, there's nothing the average human can do to make me feel more embarrassment than that moment in time. And it was just like, oh wow. Then it was just like, I don't care what anybody says about anything. I don't care if you talk about my shirt. I don't care what you talk. It will never get that bad. And there were moments where, I had neighbors knock on the door and, I opened the door and I'm like, yeah. He's like, your father, he fell asleep on my lawn. Could you come get your dad? And I'm like, okay. And I walk up the street, everybody looking, wake my dad up, and we walk him and everybody's looking. So it's just like, after a while, it's like, yo, I'm numb to life. And that's what built that.
That makes perfect sense. Now, I know that there is a special kind of relation between a son and his mother. I know. I understand. Did you? And I love the fact that you mentioned how strong. And I met her. Your mom looks Like every bit as strong and courageous and God-fearing as you say she is.
Yes.
Did you ever ask your mother, Mom, why didn't you leave? I know it's easier said than done, but did you ever ask?
Yes. Yes, I did. And I remember that day, like that's burnt in my memory too. My brother and I walked into my mom's bedroom and we were just like, why? Why are you still with dad? Like, why don't you divorce him? Like, why don't we start our own life? And, you know, we're teenagers and we're like, yo, mom, we got you. Like, we could do this. And we don't know what that entails, but we're just like, yo, why? And she was transparent enough to say, well, I asked God, should I marry him? And God said, no.
Ooh.
And she said she then told God, I want to marry him. I'll go through whatever comes. And my brother and I looked at her like, you said that to God? And she was like, that's what I said. That was the oath that I said, that if you allow me to do it, I'll go through whatever comes. And we were like, oh man, there ain't nothing we can say to that. You made a vow to God. Like, you know, and of course the marriage vow is the marriage vow. We didn't even think about this. Like people get divorced, but you told God whatever you, okay, then all right. What are you gonna do? You know, I mean, and there was some tough moments. And again, I'm gonna put the plug again, and I'm gonna have the number going through. If you're going through abuse, call.
Or if you know someone, absolutely.
Or if you know someone, call this number that's going across the screen. It's really important that you get help, or that you let the other person that's going through this get help. But I remember there was a time, because, you know, sometimes the cops would be called. And the cops were called this one time. And my dad, you know, as I call him a little punk, he went out the back door because the cops were coming. And it was going to be, you know, order protection. You need to get out the house or separate or whatever. And my mother called. He went out the back door. And I went out the back door after him. I grabbed a butcher knife, and in the area of Queens where we grew up, there was an alleyway. And the alleyway was the length of the block. It's a dark alleyway. And he went out, and I'm like, yo, this is it. I'm going. And I went, got a butcher knife, and I'm walking down the alley after him, because I'm going to catch him and I'm going to do whatever and take whatever consequences. And the cops that were called came around the alleyway in the cop car. And they're like, son, put the knife down.
Thank God.
It's true, because here's the deal. He's a war veteran. He probably would have took the thing from me. But I was not thinking like that. I was like, no, this is going to happen. And
do you not realize that your 7-year-old self was like, what I was unable to do at 7?
I didn't even think of that.
I'm going to do it now. But God.
Yes. And so I'm walking down the alley, and they're like, put the knife down. I'm like, no. It was like, son, I was like, I don't care if you see me. I don't care. And I was going after, and the length of the alleyway, it was about the length of a city block. It was a long block. And I'm walking, and they're consistently talking. You're going to go to jail, listen, that. He'll still be out. He'll be able to go back and forth. You won't. You probably won't kill him. You'll just injure him. And they're talking all of this. And somewhere before I hit the end of the alley, it's just like, all right, it doesn't make sense. And so turned back around, went home. But these are the different episodes that I remember in life. And that was my upbringing, my home life, my early years.
That was your CHT, your childhood trauma, because child trauma is from 0 to 18. And I love the fact that your mom was brave enough and honest enough to tell you this is a lesson for single people. Because when that love emotion takes over, you're like, God, this is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I want. And God's like, but I know, but this is what I want. And we always think that God is trying to keep us from giving us, our desires. That's like a whole, he will give you the desires of your heart. That's like a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But I think it's beautiful. I mean, out of this union came 3 beautiful children.
Yeah.
And you have a testimony because from what I know, there is this thing about you. No one can embarrass me, but to me, that's like 10%. 90% of Tarence is fun, is loving, is joking. Like when you're on those drums, we see someone who loves to minister. So this is a beautiful thing. Now, therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys go to therapy after he passed?
No, we did not go to therapy after he passed. He passed from lung cancer. Yeah, he used to smoke. I think he got up to 2 packs a day, and Winston cigarettes. So back in the day, that was like the one with the most tar. We used to go to the store and buy it for him. But shout out to my mom. My mom is she's an amazing woman. So two stories I want to tell you. First, the therapy one. So yeah. I think at a certain point in time, after you call the cops enough, they start saying, you might need to get some therapy for these kids.
I thought it would be court mandated, no?
It wasn't court mandated. Okay. And maybe things have changed. Things definitely changed now. Right. That situation now, courts are in there, they snatching children. Yeah. Back in the day, they're like, he'll walk it off, this and that, unless you want to really press charges. And so, and I will say somewhere in the middle, he went and got help. It got bad and he got help. Every time he came down off of his high, it's like he realized how much harm he had done. And
your dad was an addict. It was the addiction.
Yeah, it was. It really was. And he would go into depression. Now I can see it was depression. Back then, it was just like, why is dad still in the room? He's been in the room for 3 days. He comes out, he goes to the bathroom, he goes back to the room. When nobody's around, he'll go down, get himself something to eat, go back to the room, lock himself in, not lock himself, but close the room door. Of course, we can't go in and watch TV for 3 days straight. And then he'll emerge the 4th day and hey, how you doing? And it's just you've been in that room for 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah, but now I know it was a form of depression. It was
a form of depression. From a lot of stuff. I mean, it's loaded. A lot of stuff.
Right.
It's fully loaded. Now, I don't see this in you. I've never seen this in you, but I'm still going to ask for the purpose of your audience.
Okay.
Statistics show that children who are abused grow up to be abusers.
Mm-hmm.
You are a proud father to one of my babies. How do you make sure that you don't repeat what your father traumatized you with?
So, very good question. And I'm going to tie that back to therapy. So somebody told my mom that we need to go to therapy. And I think it was just me because I think maybe my brother and sister were too young. And I don't remember much about the therapy. Maybe it was 2 sessions. I don't think it was more than 3. And I don't remember what I said to the therapist, but I remember my mother saying, you are not going to tell him that he's going to be an abuser. This is the last time I'm coming here. So, because evidently the therapist was like, well, statistically saying you're going to be an abuser. And it's like, no, how can you speak that over my child? And we're done here and we're out. And I'm just like, okay, my mom said we out. And my mom, God just blessed her. And I'll tell this story and then I'll go to my son. There was one time where, and I remember this too, we had a system because, we weren't that well to do. And the system was, I wear an outfit on Monday. I wear a different outfit on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I wear Monday's outfit. On Thursday, I wear Tuesday's outfit.
Hey, you work it out. You're not the only one who knows that system, okay?
And Friday was a brand new outfit.
Right.
And so that was the system, as long as we didn't mess it up too much, get it too dirty, whatever. And so some kid at the school figured out the system.
Oh, man.
And they shouted me out.
Of
course, this is before Nothing Can Embarrass Me. And they were just like, you wear the same clothes on Wednesday that you wear on Monday. Ew. And I was mortified. Needless to say, I wore big glasses. I felt like, I was a nerd. But he killed me.
You went through your awkward phase.
Yes. It lasted a lot longer than a lot of people. But anyway, he mortified me. And I came home to my mom and I'm like, I don't want to wear that anymore. They made fun of me and yada, yada. And I'll never forget what she said. She said, okay. Let me ask you a question. And I'm like, hey, what? What was he wearing today? I'm like, what was he wearing? Yeah, what was he wearing today? Like, I don't know. What was he wearing yesterday? I was like, I don't know. What was he wearing the day before? And I'm like, Ma, I don't know. Why are you asking me this? And these were her exact words to me back in the 80s when I was in junior high. She said, these are the words. He must have been clocking you.
Absolutely.
To know what you're wearing on what day.
That's what bullies do.
And I was just like, what? And the fact that she used the word clocking, I was just like, your mom is down. And I was just like, he must have been clocking you. Like, what was anybody wearing yesterday? I'm like, I don't know. So he's following you. Yo, he's into you. He's watching you. And I'm like, yo, he is. Yo,
something about Tarence. It's true.
Exactly. And so it was amazing. And later on, I'm like, yo, how did she know to do that? But God gave it to her. Like, it was just dope like that. And so my mom was she's just dope like that. So now fast forward to my son.
Right.
Who's now 3 years old.
Yeah.
And let me say this.
That delicate age.
Okay. Yes. Toddler age, that delicate age. Let me say this. Up until my son, I don't think I ever had to deal with my childhood trauma. Ever. I put it behind me. It's something that made me stronger. Now I'm not embarrassed by anything. If I could deal with that, I could deal with anything. Yada, yada, yada. And
you wore it as a badge of honor.
I wore it as a badge of honor. As a matter of fact, I remember, oh man, this is so off. I remember telling my wife that when we have a child, the way to make him be able to handle things in life, we need to get him like a big pair of Coke bottle glasses and let him wear it, even if his vision is fine. Let's just so he doesn't get too full of himself. And so once they come off, he'll be this person that can take criticism and take because that's what I took. And it's like, not the abuse. I'm not, of course not. I'll never do that. I'll never abuse a woman, whatever. And so in my head, I would never drink. I would never abuse a woman. I'd never abuse my children. Beautiful. When I got them.
Beautiful.
And so along comes my son and my first child. And he starts the phase that every parent knows. No. And said it with an attitude. No, daddy. And put daddy on the end of it. And my hand just wanted to knock him. And it was just like, no. And I felt all of the childhood trauma come back out because I don't know how to deal with it. I've never seen a man deal with that any other way than to get hit. I used to walk on my tippy toes as a kid. I realized a lot of kids do that. It's just a phase. I was beat until I put my heels down. So if my dad saw me on my toes, bam, until with a belt, he wasn't punching me, but it was still, I always say I was supposed to be left-handed and people correct me and go, you are left-handed, even though I write with my right hand. Every time I picked up a fork, a pencil with my right hand, on my left hand, he hit it because he wanted me to be right-handed because the desk was set for right-handed people and the light comes in from school this way. That's the way it's set.
I thought that was just a Caribbean background.
Nope, that was my dad. Now, later on, I think he was homophobic. So the tippy toes,
Got
the
you.
left hand, he was afraid I was gonna, change lanes, and I probably would have been taken out. But anyway, so now when my son starts to exhibit behavior of a normal 3-year-old back at his father, I'm just like, I know how to deal with this. I know if I hit you, that won't happen anymore. And the fact that I didn't want to do that, like, it sent me to like, okay, I don't want to do that, so I don't know what to do. And so I wouldn't do anything. And my son is a smart boy. He would take advantage of that and put it on even more. And that's right. And don't do this either. And it's just like, mommy, you need to, and I'm going to go downstairs. And I realized I need to deal with this. So I went and got therapy. I'm in therapy now.
Awesome.
And you say awesome, but I started out, and here's the deal. People go, you can admit that. And I go back to like, what's going to embarrass me? What you think of me? No, you're not a drunk guy crawling on a stage. And so I go back to that. But the thing is, when I went to therapy, it was one of those things where it's just like, I don't know what to do. And they had to let me know what you went through. It's normal for you to have these feelings and need to work this out. Where I'm thinking, okay, I need to read a book. I need to man up. I need to find other ways to discipline, and which is true, but seeking help is also a viable thing. So I had to do that.
Listen, mental health really is wealth.
And I feel like we're just learning that now.
Yeah. Because we've experienced a lot of stuff, especially our men, our Black men. I don't know why. I get it, because I come from a Caribbean background, but as Christians, Jesus wept.
Yeah.
Jesus wept, and there's nobody more manly than him.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to express that. You know what I'm saying? But to take up for your mom as a Christian woman, what she was saying was, in the name of Jesus, you're not going to label God's son.
Yes.
That's what it was.
That's exactly.
I don't want people thinking, it was her. No.
Yeah.
There is this thing, because she took accountability for, I did beg God for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that she's like, okay, I'm going to take my punishment, but I'm turning this over to you, Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I'm submitting this. So we're moving out of the abuse, but I do have just a couple more questions.
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to abuse, when your father passed, this is another delicate, for those viewers out there who have gone through what you've gone through, right, and maybe feeling what you're feeling or what you felt.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that when he passed, that was deliverance? Did he abuse until?
No, he didn't. He didn't.
Okay.
So there was a point where there was a turning point where I started to feel sorry for him before he passed.
Wow.
And it was the last time he tried to abuse me. I was, 25.
Wow.
I was 25, 26. I want to say I was 30, but I couldn't have been 30. Let's say I was 25, 26. He's
a man.
Yeah, I'm a man. He's older now. And I'm just like, and he would always he would hype himself up. And he was just like, and I came in the house one time, I wasn't even living there. And he was like, so you think you're bad, huh? And I'm just like, oh, come on, Dad. No, don't do this. Oh, you think you're bad. And it came out of nowhere. And I'm just like, Dad, no. Oh no, you think you that bad, huh? And it was just like, come on, Dad. And so, no, don't worry about it. It's life. And so he came at me. And I did him because, sidebar, when we were younger, he would teach us, and this is going to sound weird, but this is just what happened. He would teach us how to kill a man from his military background.
Well, yeah, that's his training. Yeah, that makes sense.
So he would teach us
to protect yourself if you're being attacked.
He would teach his boys,
right,
hit the chin and then go for the throat with this, and the windpipe, that bone is not that thick, and shove the nose
Disclaimer,
bone.
do not attempt this at home, guys.
Oh, yeah, disclaimer.
Tarence's story for the purpose of God bringing him through and ministering. But yes.
Yes. So he used to teach us moves to like how to sidestep and put somebody. And so he came at me slow, like, I'm gonna, and I was just like, come on, man. And I did a move and he hit the ground and almost hit his head on the radiator. And I'm like, Dad, come. And I'm trying to help him up, like, stop it. And then it hit me like, this is a sickness. Like, this is bad, man. This is really bad. Like, you still think, stop it.
It was the disease.
It was.
And the devil harped on that.
It was.
But I can tell, I don't even have to ask you. I can tell that you've forgiven your dad, which is beautiful. That's beautiful. Beautiful. What have you learned about ministry?
What I've learned is that God uses every single thing in your life to have you minister. Man, oh man, I don't realize how far down I push my past, but I think I do that just so I don't wear it as a badge of honor saying, well, I went through this, so you should be able to go through what you're going through. It's not a competition. I never want to come off that way. And then I also don't want to use it as an excuse saying, hey, I went through this, so, that's why, I'm not doing any better because, this is my past. It hindered me. I never want to do that because God can do anything. As a matter of fact, I really, beyond my whole story, because everybody has a story, I pray, I hope and pray that something that was said here, that God uses it to speak directly to you. Either something I said, maybe something Martine said, for God to use that and speak directly to you, to say something to you that you need to hear from him. Again, this is only part 1. Part 2, next week, Tuesday, 9 p.m. We're going to go into my first marriage, talk a little about that. And then we're going to talk about the accident, what turned my life completely around, what shifted the trajectory of my life, put me on a path truly for ministry. So stay tuned for that. I think I believe that's going to bless you as well. Thank you for joining us today. And until then, be blessed. We're out.